So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to redo number 40 because I already had somebody ask me a question on number 40. So my strategy is, since I'm multiplying this times this in that particular order, so it's always A first in this case and then B, right? You notice B has 3 columns, so what I do is I replicate matrix A 3 times. So I have negative 1, 1, negative 1, 1, negative 1, 1, and then the 3, 4, 3, 4, and 3, 4. So you notice that 1, 2, 3 columns, matrix A 1, 2, 3 times. Then what I do is I focus on no idea what's going on here. Fine. Sorry. Technology does what it wants and it wants. Alright, so going back to the explanation. Again, I have 3 columns, A, B, C, and so I'm going to replicate this matrix 3 times. So negative 1, 3, 1, 4. Negative 1, 3, 1, 4. Negative 1, 3, 1, 4. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at each of these columns and I'm going to kind of flip them around. And I'll show you what I mean in a second. So I'll look at this one first. So basically I'm going to multiply times 0 here twice, times 1 here twice. And I'm adding those 2 products. So if you notice, this gives me 3 and this gives me a product 4. So immediately I'm looking for any matrix that's a 2 by 3, so this is no good, this is no good. And so far I have a 3 and a 4, this one does not, and that's your answer. If I continue the process just to model it for you, because I think some of you still have a little learning gap on this, here's negative 2, negative 3, right? So what I'm going to do in this case is the negative 2 is going to get multiplied here and here, the negative 3 here and here, and I'm adding those 2 products. So the negative 3 and times the positive 3 is negative 9 plus 2 is negative 7. Ergo, see, negative 7. And negative 12 and negative 2 is negative 14. That's this right here. Right? And so for the 4, 2, what I'm going to do is the same thing, same operation. Let's choose a different color. Let's go with orange. So again, this is a 4, 2. So I'm going to do the 4 times 4 here, times 4 here, times 2 here, and times 2 here. And I'm adding these together, and so obviously 6 minus 4 is 2, and this is going to give me 8 plus 4, which is 12. And so you can see the numbers right there. That's your answer. Alright, Kramer's rule. In this case, what we want to do is, some of you are going to sort of toy with the numbers, I know. Some of you are not even going to use Kramer's rule, you're just going to substitute in respectively, or you're going to just solve for it by substitution. But in Kramer's rule, you basically want to find an augmented matrix, and I'm going to add this to my pile. So far I owe you, in a sense, numbers 30 and 35, and I'm going to put 41. Only because these questions just take a little longer, I'm going to put them in a separate video. They may each be their own video. I'm going to go to the determinant question. Alright, so to find the determinant, you can use the minors, or if you wish to use the enlargement process that I showed you, where you increase this just by replicating those 2 values, you can do that. If you use the minors, that might be easy, and especially if you use this column as your lead column. So if you want to do that, we could do negative 5, for example, starting with the negative 5. Since I'm using negative 5, my new matrix here would become 2, negative 1, and negative 5, negative 3. And we know that these are going to cancel anyway, so you don't need to do the 0 times, and then this would be the 4, 2, negative 5, negative 3, and you don't need to do the other one, which is 0, and then this would be 4, 2, 2, negative 1. You don't need to bother because they're going to cancel. That's why I said just use that one. This is going to give you a determinant, and if you remember I said always go this way first, so this is going to give you minus 6 minus, this is going to give you 5, and so this is negative 11 times negative 5, so the answer should be positive 55, should be C, 42 for that one. I believe that's C. Okay, good. Now, if you want to use the other method, we can do that just to show you the steps. Let's see here. So if we do the multiplication going this way, this becomes 4 times 0 times negative 3 plus, this becomes 5, negative 5 times negative 1 times negative 5 plus, and then this is 2 times 2 times 0 minus, and now we're going to subtract. I'm going to actually bring this over here, I'm running out of space. Now we go this way, boom, boom, boom. Negative 5 times 2 times negative 3 as a value, plus 4 times negative 1 times 0 plus, and then the last one 2 times 0 times negative 5. Now the interesting part is this cancels and this cancels because of the zeros. This cancels and this cancels because of the zeros. This leaves you with negative 25 minus, and this becomes 30. And so if you add those two together, don't you end up with our same old 55? Alright, and so let me check with the calculator just to verify one more time. Another 3 by 3. We have 4, negative 5, 2. We have 2, 0, negative 1. We have negative 5, 0, negative 3. And so let's go to matrix. Second matrix, math, determinant. Second matrix, 1. Yeah, negative 55. So that should be our answer. Which I believe we got the same thing up here, no? This is negative 11. And we said we're going to use 5, negative 5. So this is negative 6 minus 5, that's negative 11. If you multiply these, you get a positive 55, but when you work it out, you actually get a negative 55. So it should be B, negative 55. Okay, the ellipse and the foci. And so if you remember for this one, it's the foci is c squared is equal to a squared minus b squared, where a squared always holds the biggest value. So your c squared, your foci, has to be, c squared is going to be 16, so your foci is going to be plus or minus 4, right? For your c value. Your, according to this, the larger of the two is the x. So I believe this should be your choice. It should be C for this one. Alright. For this equation, what you want to do is you want to reorganize this. So you have 4x squared plus 9y squared is 36, and we're going to divide by 36 on all three of these terms. And so once you're done with this part, this becomes x squared over, x squared over 9 plus y squared over 4, and this equals 1. And so the larger of the two is the x, and so our c squared is equal to 9 minus 4, which is plus or minus the square root of 5, and it should be on the x-axis. Plus or minus square root of 5 is like 2 and change. It looks to me like C should be your answer for this one. So 43 and 44 should be C. Alright. Let's check the answer for a minute just to make sure. Yes, both of them are C, 43 and 44. Okay. Alright, and so okay, so let's look at 45. You see how 45 has 0, minus 6, 0, plus 6? So 45 is already kind of hinting that that's the foci, and the foci would be plus or minus 36. So in this case, it looks like 49 minus 13 is 36. Plus and minus, so that's telling me that the y square should have the bigger value, and it does, so that could be answer choice D. Not much, this doesn't take much work. You can see quickly where the answer comes from, because remember, if they're telling you it's an ellipse, c squared is a squared minus b squared. A is always the biggest, or the largest number, so in this case 49 minus 13, that gives you 36. So if I take the square root of that, I get plus and minus 6. And it's on the y, because the y holds the major axis. Okay, on this one, you have a shift, is basically what's happening. So for 46, we're looking at, so we have a positive 4 here and here. The minor axis is 1, or you know what I mean by 1, it's like y is 1. Yeah. So the major axis in this case should be here. Let's draw it out and see what it looks like. So positive 4, positive 4 and 4, okay. Positive 4 and 6. Is about here. So this is a point 4 comma 6. And this is the point 4, negative 4. Okay, this is the major axis. So whatever the y is, the y has to hold the bigger of the two numbers. You notice they all do that. Okay, so this is going through 4. Okay, the other one is going through y being at 1, so somewhere here. At 0, 1, we start, and we end up, if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, then over here 1, 2, 3, 4, we're at 8, 8, 1, so I'm about here. This is the minor axis, so the minor axis has a distance of about 8 units, and if I look at the distance for the major axis, it's 10 units. Remember, this is absolute value, so even though it's a negative 4, it's still a count of 4. Okay. notice this is the center where the two lines meet. Notice that from 0, 0, what has happened is I've gone up 1 and over 4. So x, or the x value, shifted 4 units this way, 4 units, and the y value up 1. So this has to be the answer here, okay? That just takes a little bit of analysis. This one is about the same thing. If you look at this one, the major axis should be the y, so we can rule out anything that's on its side. So I'm looking at the answer choices here. So for 47, you have the major axis as being the y, and that has a shift to the right. No, it's a plus, a shift to the left. And the horizontal shift to the left. So let's see, so it should be left 2 units from 0, and y plus 1, so move down 1. So in this case, this 47 should be. So this is your center, over 2, down 1. There's the center right there. -2, -1. And that's how you know that's the answer. That and the corners, obviously. Alright, and then for 48, so they're giving you an equation of an ellipse. The major axis is obviously the 36. So all of your foci, the foci values, should be located in the x position. So we're looking at, in this case, y has to hold the 3. There you go. That's got to be the answer. Because if y holds the 3, then the modification, or the quadratic component, the -2, has to come from the x. Alright, so that's -2. And then plus 2 square root of 5, which is your shift based on the values. Okay, and then for 49, you should have, in this case, to complete the square. So this is a little bit of work. These questions take forever to do. But basically you group your like terms and factor out what's common. Same thing here, factor out what's common. You're going to add that 476 over here to this side. So you bring it over, cancel it on that side. And then we complete the square. So what I'm going to do is just show you, if you have 25x squared minus 100x, if I factor out the 25, I'm left with x minus 4, which is plus or minus 2, just for the record. So x is plus or minus 2. Okay, and then for the y's, same thing occurs. In this case, you have plus, well, actually you have 36y squared minus 216y, and I believe that if you factor out the 36, actually you factor out 36, no, let's leave it like that. I'm getting tired. Alright, so I'll factor out the 36 for the moment. And you're left with y squared minus 6. Right, it's 216 is divisible by 36. And so to complete the square, what we do is we need to keep in mind that we're going to take half of the middle term. So half of the 4 squared is 4, so plus 4. So this is really 25 parentheses x minus 2 squared. And that already starts to form our figure, right? Plus 30, you can ignore this. This is plus 36 times, if I take half of 6, I get 3. 3 squared is 9, so I get, in this case, y minus 9, y minus 3 squared. And this is equal to our number, which was 416. But we have to add what we just incurred here. So remember we added a 4, and 4 times 5 is really, we're adding 100. And here we added a 9. So we need to keep that in mind and add that as well. And so, let's see. We end up with 900. All of this ends up being 900. So when I divide by 900 on both sides, all three sides, this becomes x minus 2 squared over 36 plus y minus 3 squared over 25, and now this is equal to 1. If you notice, this is actually answer choice A. And for number, well, actually, I could stop there. I'll stop there. 49.